The Her Sports Show, live every Wednesday on YouTube and every podcast app.
Hello and welcome to the Her Sports Show, our weekly series bringing you the latest and breaking news from the world of women's sport. In this episode, we discuss the upcoming European Football Championships, Ireland's devastating loss to Chile in the Hockey World Cup, and female sports pundits suffering online abuse from nameless, faceless trolls. First thing over to the papers, both the Irish Times and the Irish Independent carried the story of the Green Army losing 1-0 to Chile in the Hockey World Cup. In the Independent, it says Ireland will have to produce one of their biggest wins yet if they are to continue their World Cup journey following a defeat to debutantes Chile in Amstelveen. It means they need to win against world number 5 side Germany today and then hope goal difference works in their favour later when Chile meet the Netherlands. Today I'm joined by Mohammed to discuss the match.
Thank you for having me.
So in terms of the game, it was a tough result to take. Was it a case of Chile being the dominant side or catching Ireland on a break?
It was a strange game. I think Ireland will be very frustrated and disappointed by how the match went. They did dominate that first half. I think in the first 60 minutes they had a lot of pressure. They just couldn't find that opening. In the first, I believe, 9 minutes, Ireland had 4 penalty corners, and throughout the game it was 10 and they just couldn't score. Sean Dancer had spoke about how disappointing that was, and I think in the last quarter Chile had a penalty corner of their own and did score, and then it kind of went bad to worse with Lena Theis getting yellow carded and then Roisin Upton going off as well injured. So very frustrating. I know we had spoken to Aisha McFerrin and Katie Mullen before, and they had targeted the Chile game as something that they felt that they could win, and now they have to play Germany today, and we obviously don't know the result, but that will be tough. Germany are ranked 5th in the world. Ireland, I know Aisha had mentioned as well that Ireland do find that Germany, the way Germany play suits Ireland, the way we can sit back, soak up the pressure and counter, and with the pace that we do have, that could be something, but it's not going to be easy. Germany are a very good side, and it might work in Ireland's favour that the game is so close. There's no time to really think about the loss. You kind of on to the next game, so that might work in their favour, but it will be a tough game.
In terms of their approach, like we've spoken to a couple of different players, like we've spoken to recently retired Nikki Daly, we've spoken to Katie Mullen about this, that they always try to be a side that's very hard to beat, and you feel that they're playing very defensively. So in this, like, do they need to change their style of play a little bit to try and, you know, make sure that they are getting goals in the back of the net and making sure that they're progressing? Like this is like make or break for them.
Yeah,
in terms of against Germany.
I think it's difficult to maybe argue against the way they have kind of approach games previously, because they did make it to a World Cup final playing like that, playing on the counter, being hard to beat and maybe breaking. It's tough when you maybe come up against sides that you're expected to beat, that you're so used to soaking up pressure and playing on the counter attack. With like Chile, like the Irish players won't hide the fact that they should have won that game. And the other side of it is they've lost about over 1,000 caps, with Lizzie Colvin, Shirley McKay, Nikki Daly, Grace Flanagan, Hannah Matthews, Anna Flanagan, Chloe Watkins, all not in the squad. So that's a lot of caps, a lot of experience out of the team, and it's a very young team, but they'd still be disappointed with that result.
So we definitely have our work cut out for us this evening against Germany. Like, it's obviously a very good side, but a win won't just do it. We need goal difference to play in our favour as well. So Ireland will be facing Germany, and then the Netherlands will be facing Chile. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like we say, playing Germany on its own is not an easy task, but even if Ireland do win, it doesn't guarantee that they will go through. In the opening game of the tournament, Ireland played the Netherlands and lost 5-1, so they will need the Netherlands to do a similar job in Germany and win on Chile, I should say, and win by 5 goals or more. So regardless of what happens in the Ireland game, Ireland are obviously up first. They'll still have to wait and see what happens in the Netherlands game as well.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of that, it'll be interesting to see how the Netherlands face Chile, because obviously, you know, we're saying that we expected Ireland to beat Chile, so it'll be interesting to see what the score difference is there too.
Yeah, no, I think when Chile played Germany, a lot of people were surprised at the way Chile approached the game. Again, they were, you know, it's the first time they're in the tournament. They kind of have that energy and that buzz, you know, there's nothing to lose. I think I was watching the match yesterday and the coach is so eccentric, I'd say. He's kind of pacing up and down. He's great to watch, and I think that kind of energy and excitement has rubbed off on the players, because you can see that it means so much to them. They're basically doing what Ireland did in 2018, where no one really expected anything from them and you don't really know what to expect. I think that is another challenge, in that maybe there's not that much footage or much matches that you can kind of see and like, what can we expect from Chile? So yeah, no, it'll be interesting, and hopefully from the Irish perspective, the Netherlands do a job on Chile, because they're obviously through already, and that maybe might be a psychological thing where they don't go as hard as they did against Ireland. But I think they're quite professional, and the Netherlands are good. Maybe a 80% Netherlands or 70% Netherlands will still do a job against Chile.
In terms of the team that we have at the moment, like, do you think that there's a lot of pressure coming in from obviously a silver medal at the last World Cup to now playing in this World Cup? And as you said, like, we've lost a number of experienced players. Do you think that's tough for that side to come into this competition?
Absolutely. I think there is a lot of expectation maybe from the outside of people who maybe don't follow the team that regularly. They've seen the results, that they got to a final at the World Cup, they got to the Olympics, and you're kind of expecting Ireland to do the same thing again. But like you said, they've lost a lot of caps, a lot of experience in that side. It's still a very young team, very talented, but at the same time, so is everyone else. And so the competition is getting better and better. And for Ireland to kind of maintain that isn't easy. They if we're being honest, they weren't favourites at all, maybe to get out of the group. The game against Chile was kind of a toss-up, because it could have gone either way. But with the expectation that Ireland got to a World Cup final and they got to the Olympics, you would have thought that maybe they'd have the edge over Chile, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. But again, we don't know the result of what the Germany game will be. One thing you can never do is write off this Irish side, and maybe that's when they perform at their best. So fingers crossed they get the result today, and the Netherlands also get a result against Chile.
Great, thanks for joining us to talk about the hockey today.
No problem.
Moving on to another news story, the Irish Daily Mirror, along with many other papers, cover the story of the online abuse that Wexford camogie legend Ursula Jacob has suffered over the weekend while on air for the Sunday game. Ursula Jacob made a statement following seeing an article written about her on Benchwarmers that was also shared by GAA Crack. The statement says, "Usually I never entertain and give keyboard warriors an ounce of time or thought, but sometimes enough is enough, and standing up for yourself is more important than constantly just putting up with nasty, tasteless comments from faceless cowards. Firstly, I am a proud female and proud Wexford woman who just happens to have a Wexford accent too. Shock horror. I am and will always be forever proud of where I come from, so I'm not going to start now or try changing my accent anytime soon. I'm well aware that being on a public platform, you are always open to debate and discussion, and not everyone will always like you. I've also no problem with anyone disagreeing with any comments I make while working with RTE or on the Sunday game. That's part and parcel of the job. What I do have a problem with is an anonymous person or people setting up a page trying to create headlines out of nothing, facilitating nasty personal attacks, and once again targeting another female pundit or presenter. Have we seriously not moved on with the times at all? Are we still stuck in the past? I have and always will be proud of what I have achieved as a player, and also know that I can back myself working as a pundit who is knowledgeable in both hurling and camogie. I'm not into tokenism or making up numbers. I'm there because I have a voice and can give an informed and educated opinion. Lucky for me, I am a strong woman who has a brilliant support network who always have my back and are super proud of me. But I would seriously encourage anyone who thinks about writing something nasty, tasteless or personal about anyone on a social media platform to think before you type. At least I am brave enough to stand by my opinion on national TV, whereas some faceless coward has to hide behind a keyboard to try and promote nothing but pure nastiness and bullying. But as my wise mother has always said to me, if they're talking about you, they must be worried about you. Lastly, I'd like to thank the overwhelming number of people who have continued to support me. Their positivity will always outshine the few narrow-minded individuals." A Facebook page called GAA Crack that has 275,000 followers shared the headline, "Ursula Jacob comes in for hammering on the Sunday game panel. We give out about the games being on Sky, but thank God the option is there to turn off Ursula Jacob. Full story below." They then proceeded to share the Benchwarmers article, which shows 2 comments about Ursula Jacob and essentially blew it up into a story that was nothing. I'm delighted to welcome Ursula Jacob to the show. She's a former Wexford camogie player and a sports pundit. Ursula, it's great to have you on, but I'm disappointed in the topic that we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's becoming very prevalent, particularly amongst females, and online trolling and abuse, and it just seems to have gone to another level really in the last couple of months, and it just seems to be relentless and happen every week to a different person. But yeah, unfortunately, it's not a nice topic to talk about, but I think if we don't talk about it, we're not going to see any progress either.
Absolutely. I guess for anybody that's tuning in, give us a quick recap on what's happened, and we'll share the story with everybody.
Yeah, so look, most people probably know at this stage that I work on the Sunday game as part of the hurling and camogie panels. I was working last Saturday for the Clare v Kilkenny All-Ireland Senior Hurling semi-final, working as normal on a Saturday. So Sunday was kind of my break, and it was my relaxing day, and I was looking forward to watching the other semi-final. And I just randomly was scrolling on my Facebook page, and I saw this article pop up, and the headline was something like along the lines that Ursula Jacob receives a hammering on the Sunday game. And it alarmed me straight away, because it made me, first of all, question, have I missed something? Mm-hmm. You know, what are they referring to? So I went into the article, and I see that they based the article on two individuals tweeting that they didn't like hearing my Wexford accent, or didn't like my voice. And basically this page on Facebook, which is 267,000 people liking it, created an article out of that to basically facilitate, you know, a personal attack on me and make nasty comments about me. And it was, when you went into the article, you're like, is that it? Two people tweeted that they didn't like seeing me on the Sunday game. So I suppose I was quite upset by it, because I knew that this article was going out to a wider audience than just an individual tweeting out they didn't like me. This was going out to over 260,000 people who liked that page on Facebook. And I'm thinking, God, if people believe everything they read, or believe the headlines, they're going to think, God, what did Ursula Jacob do so wrong on the Sunday game? Mm-hmm. So I was obviously initially quite upset. I was very taken aback by it. The one positive I will take from it, when I did actually go into the article, and comments were coming in very, very quickly underneath it. And surprisingly, which was great to hear and see, was that 99% of the comments that were coming in were fully supporting me and being very, very critical of the page itself. So I just it was niggling away at me kind of Sunday evening, Monday morning. And I kind of just started writing my now statement that has gone out since yesterday evening. And I said, you know what? I kind of spoke to my family, to my husband, and I said, I know I'm probably putting myself out here by putting out a statement onto my social media platforms, but I just felt at this stage enough was enough, and it was coming to a head. I don't have any problem that everyone doesn't always like me. That's part and parcel of the job. I've no problem if they don't agree with the points that I make on the Sunday game, or my analysis, or my whatever, my viewpoint on a particular player. You're not, that's life. A healthy discussion and debate is what we all want. But when it gets personal, when it's making nasty digs about you, a lot of them that are very untrue, but that can be very, very hurtful, and they're coming from faceless and nameless people, I just said, no, I'm not standing for that any longer. I played camogie at the highest level for 30 years, basically, whether from my club and my county. Yeah. And I never felt like I would allow myself to be bullied on the pitch. And I wasn't going to allow myself to be intimidated by keyboard warriors. So that's kind of where the statement came out then yesterday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I guess my question for you is, you know, they found a couple of tweets, and then there was stories shared by, the article was written by Benchwarmers, and then one of the pages that shared it was GA Crack, which has, as you said, it has 275,000 followers. Do you feel that they're kind of, you know, lighting fire to something and allowing the story to grow, and maybe kind of feeding into the culture, as opposed to they didn't have to share the story, and if there's only a couple of comments there, they can just leave it be? Like, what did you kind of feel that their angle was?
I genuinely feel so frustrated by it, because as you said, it was based on two individuals who have a couple of followers on Twitter, and they based an article and a headline on that. And I'm not.
Yeah, and the headline is can be misleading, as you said. You did directly quote the headline there. But as you're saying, like if people just kind of scroll past that, they don't get the full story, and then when you click into the actual article, like there's not really much in it, and it doesn't necessarily seem like maybe bench warmers are coming down on a side, but as you said, they're giving traction to 2 people as opposed to maybe a widespread audience. And
that's it.
You're feeling like they're basically trying to get more people to agree with these comments, is it?
Yeah, and I'm not even, I suppose, I'm looking at the bigger picture here too. It's not just about this one page on Facebook, because there's lots of other similar pages that are out there that are like, you've the anonymous people behind these accounts, and I didn't see any justification for writing that article. I saw, when I look back on some of the previous articles they wrote about other pundits in the last number of weeks, you know, I saw for one article was calls for Joanne Cantwell to be sacked from the Sunday game. You know, what were they basing that on? Another one was about Anna Geary and that she was rude live on air. And again, creating this article, feeding into the narrative that whether it was, and I've given 2 examples of females, but they've targeted lots of the male pundits as well. But pages like these, it's like they're trying to create this negativity around the individuals.
Yeah.
And they're not making it for a healthy discussion or a debate. They're not saying Ursula Jacob strongly tipped Kilkenny to win that game, and there's the discussion open. They're making personal remarks and comments about me directly. That has absolutely nothing to do with my job that I did on Saturday. So that's where I'm coming from, that it's when it goes to the personal nasty level, whether it's me or anyone else, that's completely not, that should not be tolerated or accepted. And I suppose that's where a lot of my frustration and upsetness and all the different emotions have come from, because I don't think these pages should be allowed to create that kind of content. I have no problem with debate and discussion on points that are raised on the Sunday game or whatever else. But make it about the game itself. Make it about the discussion or the analysis that we've covered, not about whether I have a strong Wexford accent or I'm a female speaking on a male hurling match.
Yeah, no, and look, we've definitely seen this before across a couple of different sports where female pundits are made feel like they're not welcome in the sport, and on the you know, you can see it on Twitter, you can see it on other social media platforms as well, where people are saying things, whether about accents or voices or you know, analysis and knowledge of the game. And I know your point was that you have the expertise, you have the knowledge, and as you said, you're happy to discuss that and for people to disagree with you on that. But what other kind of experiences have you had? This obviously was one where it all just came to a head, and you just said enough was enough.
Yeah, and just coming back to your point there, I work mainly with males on the hurling panels, and I couldn't feel more supported by them. They are open to listening to my views. I'm fully supported by everyone on RTE. I never have felt going into that environment intimidated or not wanted to be there. They value my opinion. They know I'm not there to make up the numbers, or I'm not there for tokenism, which I never want to be. I'm there to give my opinion. But it's when and the thing is, the ironic and funny thing in all of this, a lot of these trolls or anonymous people, or even people that will stand by their name and write the nasty comments, they generally just target it on the fact that why is there a woman speaking about a hurling match? And 2, I can't stand her voice. I can't stand her Wexford accent. I'm born and raised in Wexford. I live in Wexford. I'm 36 years living in Wexford. My accent is not going to change. I'm not looking to have a Dublin accent, a Cork accent, a Galway accent. That's who I am. And wouldn't it be very boring and very bland if we all spoke the exact same and look the exact same on television? Is that what they want? Us all to be in uniform, speaking in the exact same manner. So they never actually really target me about my knowledge or my analysis that I cover. It's always questioning, why is the woman speaking about the men's game, or why is that one with the Wexford accent on the telly? Can we get rid of her? That's the comments that keep cropping up. It's always based on my Wexford accent. And I suppose that hit a strong note too, because I'm very, very proud to be from Wexford. I'm very proud to be a woman working on the Sunday game. Not everyone gets that opportunity. I've had GA steeped in my whole family for all my life. I've watched the Sunday game as a viewer from a very young age, and now I'm working on that platform. And I take a huge amount of honor in that, because it's a brilliant environment to be in. I'm passionate about sport. And I just think some people are living back in the Stone Ages if they can't see that. Why can't a woman speak about the men's game, and why can't men speak about women? Just, we need to open that conversation.
Yeah.
And I just think some people can't move past it.
How do you think we do move past it, and how do you think we tackle the issue? Obviously, there's the online side of things, and then there's, people actually really do have these opinions. So how do we change their opinions?
Unfortunately, we're never going to change everyone's opinion. We have to probably accept that the narrow-mindedness out there will always be in some people. They just can't move past the gender issue. I think the more women we see on television or on podcasts or in newspapers writing about and making it that there's not such an issue about a woman speaking about men's sport, or just opening up that conversation. I think if more like myself are open to that, and open to talking about their pride on, they're passionate on GA, soccer, rugby or whatever, it's brilliant to see more representation on these panels. I think it's absolutely brilliant. As long as that the person there, whether it's male or female, has the knowledge, can back up their points and are educated in it, I've no problem. I don't look at the gender, I just look at what someone is saying. And I think if we can all have that little bit more open-mindedness, I think it'll go a long way.
Absolutely. In terms of, like, you're obviously seeing these comments, so do you ever kind of not look at Twitter, not look at Facebook, or like, how do you carry on doing your job, which you like very clearly love, but kind of take this commentary that goes with it, and these kind of negative remarks? Like, I know you mentioned that both men and women are getting it, but do you feel that women are getting more, and how do you handle it?
Yeah, well, firstly, I just say I'm on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm private on all three platforms for a reason. The reason being is I don't open myself up to that negativity, because unfortunately, every time I'm on television, I'm always fearful of what I'll see. Like, that's an awful thing to say, that when I'm on television on Saturday, I'll probably avoid social media for a day or two afterwards. Now, I was harmlessly scrolling on my personal Facebook page on Sunday, just very casually. I don't ever go looking for the comments. That's one thing. I'd never be typing my name into Twitter or Facebook, because you
don't want to see it.
I don't want to see it. So I try block it out as much as I can. But when I accidentally came across this article, I suppose I was very taken aback. And on Sunday, I was saying to my family and my husband, I was like, no, the enjoyment is going out of it for me. I can't stick this. This is not my full-time job. I'm doing this on top of my full-time job, and I'm putting myself out there, and I'm getting this kind of abuse, and I'm like, I don't know, is this worth it? I had serious question marks around it. And then I kind of got that little bit of determination in me on Monday, where I said, no, hang on here. I'm not going to allow someone like this, who's hiding behind a keyboard, to encourage me to quit what I like doing. I thoroughly love working on the Sunday game, but I do fear every time I go on that I'm afraid to nearly look at social media. And some people have said to me, go off social media. But to me, that's not an option. I use social media for informational purposes. I use it for my research when I'm preparing for big games. The solution for me is not to just go off social media. It's my way of staying connected with people. It's my way of, I enjoy social media, the positive elements, and I love taking pictures. I love putting them up on my private Facebook and private Instagram accounts, and I only allow people that I know follow me. And it gets to the stage I'm trying to protect myself, but even I couldn't protect myself. So how does someone else who is public and open on their social media accounts protect themselves if they're constantly seeing negative comments. And just to say, yeah, I would agree, the women pundits or presenters do probably get that little bit more harsher critique at times. Sometimes it doesn't matter if I make the best point ever about a match or I come up with brilliant analysis, there'll still be the few who'll just still target me because they don't want to hear a woman speak about it.
Yeah, no, we've definitely seen that before, where sometimes it is specifically, you know, down to the gender of a presenter or pundit. And then I think generally in the industry, people are finding it tough at the moment with the kind of freedom of sharing thoughts on social media and that anonymity, and it doesn't matter what the gender. So there's kind of two issues there. Yeah. In terms of something that's happened before, I know we've covered you know, the story of Katrina Park, you know, where people were essentially sexualizing her. And that was also something that was shared on a Facebook page. It was a Hogan Stand Facebook page. And, you know, that's, you know, people need to consider what they're putting out there, and, you know, make sure that they're being fair to people and not targeting people for certain things. And I guess there's also a responsibility on you know, people in the community as well, that if they find that they don't agree with something, or it's maybe inappropriate comments or unnecessary comments, that they actually report some of them, because you can report some of these things to the likes of Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. You know, obviously people want to share their opinions, but it shouldn't be an environment where we're kind of allowing you know, negativity for the likes of your gender or your voice or your accent or whatever it might be. It has to be within reason, and people do have to feel protected as well.
100%, because there's loads and loads of positives to social media. You know, it's not all toxic, it's not all negative. But those kind of comments, whether it's about Katrina Park or myself or whoever, like it makes me a lot more aware of stuff too. If I saw those comments on that page, I didn't like that page. I was never, you know, subscribed to that page. Yeah. But if I saw a similar page that had made comments or nasty personal attacks on someone, I would immediately unsubscribe, unlike, unfollow that page. Why feed into it? Because that's part of the problem too. You know, some of us will, you know, just kind of take a blind eye to it and say, oh, that's not my issue, that's not my problem, that's nothing to do with me. But if we all took that stance, where do we go then? Because then we're constantly just allowing these people to continue to troll or write nasty things about people. You know, so rather, you know, just in relation to like Katrina Park, like Katrina, I played with her for years and years, and a brilliant athlete and all-rounder, but yet they seem to focus on what, you know, trying to sexualize what she was wearing and made an article out of that. Like that's disgusting, like, and it shouldn't be tolerated. And, you know, I just hope this sometimes will, as I said to someone earlier today, I said it in my statement, I would just so encourage people to seriously think before they type. I think that's the biggest message I can say to people, that you know, would you say that to someone if you met him along the street, or if you walked up to him face to face and said all these nasty things or sexual comments or whatever? No, you more than likely wouldn't. So why do you deem that it's okay to do it, you know, behind your computer screen or behind your phone? So that's a really important thing. And if it makes a couple of people think, well, then it might move forward, but we've a long way to go still.
Yeah, no, I think it's completely fair, like what you're saying, and like what you're doing is encouraging people to think before they type. And as you said, like, you have to be conscious of what you would say to somebody face to face, and not just because you're behind a screen think that it's okay to kind of unleash on people, and that, you know, behind the you know, the fact that you're not meeting somebody in person just because they're on television or just because they're on a social media platform, like, they're still real people, and people are seeing these comments. And we've seen people say things like this before, like, people don't need to be so past remarkable, and actually remember that on the end of a phone where people are maybe reading comments about themselves is a real person, and to be a bit more considerate, I think, is really what we're encouraging people to do.
And, you know, I completely back up that point. I'm a human being, I've real feelings. I won't deny that I was very, very upset on Sunday. I was really taken aback by it. And then I became, encouraged by the amount of support I was receiving and people messaging me and ringing me. And, that really did give me a lift and a boost. And I really appreciate people taking the time to do that as well. But I'm a strong-minded person. I've a really good support network around me. But what if there's someone else who's feeling a little bit more vulnerable and they don't have someone to express how they're feeling if they saw a nasty comment? And I mean this across the board. It doesn't have to be someone on the television. It could be a young person.
Yeah, exactly.
What if they're vulnerable or they're feeling low in themselves and they see a nasty comment? That can have serious, serious consequences. And thankfully, look, as I said, yes, I got upset on Sunday, but I'm strong enough to keep going, keep continuing to fight the fight, keep continuing to push the boundaries on stuff. But I'm very lucky also. I've really strong family and friends around me who will back me up. And that's key to it all as well, because that's a wider issue. This is not just about people like myself who are on television. This is about a wider issue. Young people, it's going on non-stop, the kind of online bullying and that, and it's frightening, it's scary. I don't think I'd like to be a teenager these days because everything is done through phones and social media.
Yeah.
And I'm strong enough now that I'm an adult. I can take a certain amount of it. But if I was that little bit more younger or more vulnerable, it could have different consequences.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's maybe what we're trying to share with people is that, there should be accountability with the comments that are happening. And I know some of the social media platforms encourage people obviously to report some of those comments, but like if people see nasty comments to maybe do that and then also think before you act. But I think in terms of what you're saying, like I'm glad to hear that there is plenty of people that came back and supported you as well. And in terms of
overwhelming, to be honest, just to say that and to reiterate it, I'm blown away by the support. And as I said, it's not even 24 hours. And I've had people from all walks of life, sport, media, personal life, the amount of people have reached out to me. And interestingly, we're making an assumption that it's men a lot of the time making these comments, but the amount of men in particular who have come out so strong to me saying how disgusted and disappointed they are that a woman should have to be put up with this kind of nonsense. We're in 2022 and that's nice to hear from it's even more powerful at times when you hear from a man saying that to you, because the more men that realize that a woman at times has it a lot tougher in many forums, that can really back up a statement too.
Yeah, no, I think in terms of what you're receiving there and the support that you've gotten is great. That some people are kind of on the right page, and hopefully more and more we'll see this change over time. And obviously from the women's sport perspective, we need more kind of leaders and pioneers in the industry. So I'm glad to hear that you got the support and that determination to stick at it and not let other people kind of make you feel unwelcome in an environment where you obviously enjoy and feel that you belong, and like you've earned your right in that role. So nobody should make you feel like you don't belong there. But 100%. I'm glad to hear about the support anyways, and thanks so much for sharing your story. Hopefully yourself and ourselves at Hurled Sport will manage to change things for women, and hopefully in terms of the media industry in general that female or male, anybody will feel welcome, and people will actually just start to consider what they're doing and saying online, because as we said, there are real people at the end of phones and on television and that type of thing. It's would you say it to their face, I think is an important thing to think about.
Yeah, thanks a million.
The final headline in the Irish Independent is Great Goals, Battling Trolls and the Female Haaland, What the Euros Have to Offer. Irish international Louise Quinn penned an article for the Irish Independent outlining why people need to tune in for the Euros, which begin this evening. Quinn said this is the best group of footballers ever assembled in the women's game. The technical side has gone up a level and that will be clear to see. Over the month, it'll be one of the tightest competitions there has been. The quality of players spread across the teams is phenomenal. You could easily pick 6 teams who could go on and win it. Ada Hegerberg was controversially off the scene for 5 years. She had her own protest at the way the national team were being treated by their FA, but it seems she's happier now that things are better run. She won the first women's Ballon d'Or in 2018, and she reminds me of another Norwegian, Erling Haaland. They have both a bit of attitude with mixed flair. She's a poacher who can score from anywhere. Louise expects England and Sweden to make the final. I'm joined by Mohammed again to discuss the football. So what are your expectations for this Euros?
I think Louise has hit the nail on the head there. It's probably going to be, I hope, one of the Euros to remember. It's really cool to see the build-up, I think, because it's happening in the UK. We've seen a lot of cool activations. I know you had showed me before the
Nike ads are really cool.
Yeah, with Lucy Bronze on it, which is really, really cool to see. And I think we saw what happened in the men's Euros, which took place in the UK essentially, and the buy-in that it got from the home fans. And I think with England being one of the favourites, like Louise said, to maybe make it to a final, there's going to be a lot of hype and really exciting to see. I think, like she said, there's a lot of teams who could win it, who could get to the final. It's no guarantee. You have England, of course, who are doing really well. They have Lauren Hemp, who won the Young Player of the Year for Man City, top scorer. You have Spain, who Joanna Reardon's a big fan of Putellas, but I think she's missing the Euros now with an ACL. The news broke this morning, which is really sad for her because she's obviously the Player of the Year at the moment. Ireland know Sweden very well. We actually, funny enough, have put 2 really good performances against a team who probably everyone think are going to win the Euros. They have Blackstenius, who plays for Arsenal. Katie McCabe would know her very well. She's probably one of the players to really look out for. Then you have the Netherlands, who are the reigning champions. They won it back in 2017. Denmark, who have gotten to 2 finals in 2013 and 2017, but haven't kicked on just yet. This might be their tournament. Pernilla Harder, who plays for Chelsea, is an outstanding footballer, and she might finish top goal scorer. Then you have France as well, who have all the talent in the world, but there's a lot of unrest in that camp. I know there's a lot of controversial stories coming out of there with the coach having fights with some players, and then I don't know if you had seen that one of the players had been attacked by some masked men, and it turned out that a player in the squad had kind of organised that attack. So yeah, it's crazy to read some of the stories there, and that kind of shows you the unrest in the camp.
Yeah, it sounds like there's maybe not a lot of teamwork.
No, absolutely. So
and it's not ideal preparations. Like if the coach and the players can't work together, and then the players can't work together, that's certainly not going to help them.
Not at all. And they have some of the best players in the world, but if there's no cohesion and they're not really working together, that's going to be a struggle for them. But no.
So the championship kicks off this evening at 8 p.m. with host England facing Austria in Old Trafford. What should we expect from the game?
Yeah, that'll be really exciting. England are going in favourites, of course. They're expected to get to a semi-final or final. Obviously, it being the first game of the tournament, you never know what will happen. Players still finding their way into games, but I think England should have enough quality to get through Austria, and people are expecting maybe England to win all their games in the group stages, and that then things kind of get tough. But really exciting to see the attendances and how things shape there. I know the final had sold out within hours, so yeah, exciting tournament and really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And in terms of Sweden, you mentioned them earlier. We have Spain, England, Norway, and Sweden are among the favourites to win. Sweden clinched the silver medal at last year's Tokyo Olympics. So what do you think their strategy will be?
Sweden have quality all over the pitch. They finished second at the Olympics. They got bronze at the World Cup. So I suppose the next step for them is to get gold in the next tournament. They are very fluid. Like we've seen them play against Ireland a couple of times. They play 4-3-3 or 3-5-2. Like I said, Blackstenius is an unbelievable striker. But they're really strong, and I think their set piece game is quite formidable as well. I know in qualification they had their defenders scored about 10 out of their 40 goals. So a tough team, strong all over the park, and I think it'll take a really good team to
beat them.
Exactly.
And in terms of the Euros, like the Republic of Ireland obviously aren't competing, they didn't qualify, but Northern Ireland will be competing. So from an Irish perspective, certainly well worth tuning in and supporting Northern Ireland. They're the only team not ranked in FIFA's top 30, coming in at 47th. So what do you think their approach will be? Like we certainly expect a gutsy performance from them.
Yeah, no, like for Northern Ireland to be in the competition itself is a huge win, and I know the coach had said it might have come a bit early in their journey, but at the same time, like playing a Euros is something that the players will treasure and really want to give a go. They might come up against some teams who are ranked above them, but at the end of the day, it's just 11 people on the pitch and anything can happen. Exactly, and I'd like to think that they'd have that home support as well, with people wanting to see the underdogs do well. So it'd be interesting to see. It won't be easy, as we know, but in football, you never know.
So the tournament is going to be on RT, and we're seeing women's football grow and grow all the time. Obviously, the Republic of Ireland are on a qualification journey for the World Cup, so people should be definitely tuning in to get to know some of the other sides a bit more. You have a way to make things interesting.
Yeah, no, I think we've done it in the office ourselves, and I think it's a good way to maybe get more invested in the game. There is a fantasy Euros, which could be interesting. You pick players and you kind of then are watching them to see how they do, and it gets you more invested in the game. Or there's other ways to maybe do a sweepstake with some of your friends or some of your colleagues, that you get a team and you kind of follow them. Obviously, there's some teams who might do better than others, and it's not really fair, but it's still, at the same time, you get invested.
It makes it entertaining.
Exactly. So with Ireland not being in a tournament, if you want to get more invested in it, if you want to have a team you can follow, I think that's probably the best way to do it. And with it being on RT and them showing all the games is a good way to maybe immerse yourself in it all.
Yeah, and certainly, like, we've seen the success of that with the Six Nations. Like, everybody gets involved in some of the Women's Six Nations fantasy leagues, and it really does educate you about the other teams, because, like, obviously people are going in with support probably for their home team, but it can, you know, help you learn about the other players that you're coming up against and everything. So definitely tune into the games on RT, and for more on this story and on the Euros, be sure to tune into our newly designed website on hersport.ie and get involved in the conversation with us using the hashtag HerSportShow on Instagram and Twitter. The next story is that after a 10-year hiatus, the KPMG Women's Irish Open is returning to the Ladies European Tour. Earlier this week, we spoke to Jacqui Hurley about the importance of the event and her love of the game. Hi Jacqui, how are you? We're delighted to welcome you to the Her Sport Show.
Thanks a million for having me.
So you are obviously a sports presenter and broadcaster, but we're here to talk all things golf. So KPMG have just announced that they will become the sponsor of the KPMG Women's Irish Open for the next 3 years. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, it's hugely exciting. I think the fact that KPMG have been involved in women's sport over the last couple of years, I think they've seen the commitment that they've put in here, and I'm delighted that they're doubling down on this and bringing golf to the Irish public, because I think, given that we haven't had the Irish Open here for 10 years, I think there's a whole generation of golf fans who haven't even had the exposure to it from a female side of things. We've seen the success that our male golfers have had. I think it's just going to give the Irish public a more tangible feeling with some of the Irish female golfers. So I, for one, I'm really excited about what's going to happen later this year.
Absolutely. So there's a couple of names to be watching out for. So who would be the top Irish golfers you'd be looking out for this year?
Oh, well, I think people will have watched what Leona Maguire has done for Irish golf just on the global stage, even playing in the Solheim Cup team. And I think just having it on TV and the visibility of that and what Leona has gone on to do since then, even getting her first tour win, she's definitely put Irish golf on the map. I think the great thing is that it hasn't just been Leona. Like, even just watch Stephanie Meadow and the way that she's continuously growing on the tour. She had, albeit it didn't work out for her in the very end, but she really put herself right into contention last weekend again. I think Olivia Mahaffey is definitely going to have a really strong career, and like, there's a whole pile of amateur golfers who are coming through the ranks as well who have watched them. And I think, like, you know, even when I was younger, we just didn't really have that kind of success from an Irish golf point of view. So for young golfers now to look at the likes of Olivia and Stephanie and Leona and say, yeah, I can chase this dream, and it's a reality for them now to want to become a professional golfer, where maybe that wasn't even there 10 years ago. And I think that's hugely exciting.
Yeah, and it's something we actually spoke to Stephanie about recently, was about being a professional golfer and what that entails. And there can be so much opportunity for young athletes to get in that sport. In terms of the partnership, it's obviously a 3-year partnership, and what you mentioned there was that it hasn't been going on for 10 years. So how important is this partnership for the sport?
It's huge, because I think it's the platform that it gives it to grow. Look, the commitment is there that KPMG are going to be there for 3 years. I think they have watched the exposure and the landscape that they've had in golf in general, and they've seen how much it's grown. I think that it's only going to take golf to a whole new level in Ireland. I think just the ability for people to go to Dromoland and watch stars of world golf in action, not just Irish golf, I think is going to just really, really give the Irish public a chance to see something that they haven't seen before. And look, I suppose the tagline of "can't see it, can't be it" is often used, but that is genuinely what's going to happen here, because we haven't seen this before. Like you think about, if you're 10 years old in Ireland, this is the first time you're ever going to have seen an Irish women's golfer playing professionally in Ireland in a tournament. So I think I'm excited for what it is for a generation of kids, but I'm excited for the generation of adults as well, who really, I suppose, over the last number of years have watched a lot of Irish male golfers succeed and getting a huge platform, massive visibility on TV week in, week out. I would love to see that happen for our female golfers. And yes, like Leona and Stephanie are on TV, but a lot of the time it's for an American audience. This is an Irish audience. It'll be happening and a time zone that really suits us. And the tickets are priced in a way that it's really going to encourage people to go. And I think, I hope that is going to have an impact, that, people are really going to buy into this thing, and they're really going to enjoy a couple of lovely days in Clare.
Yeah, and obviously, golf is something that Irish people are very passionate about. So it'd be great to, see people down supporting the women's side of things, see what's going on, and obviously see that talent, because, we've been watching Leona for a long time, and she does get that media exposure. And now you're talking about, Stephanie and Olivia, and there's so much more talent in there. In terms of the other athletes, the non-Irish athletes, who are some athletes to watch out for?
Well, look, it really depends on what kind of a field they can assemble. I think anybody who watched the Solheim Cup will see that there's a lot of big European names out there, and it'd be fabulous to see some of them come. I'm sure Leona will be talking to a few of them and seeing how many she can talk into making the trip, because I think anybody who's watched Irish golf, I think sometimes people forget that you look at the courses that are in Ireland, and they're doing a spectacular job on the course in Dromoland. But I think, on a global scale, anybody who watches Irish golf and sees what it looks like on the television, they're often saying, God, I'd love to go there, and I'd love to play there. I'd love to play there. Just holiday makers wanting to come here and play golf. So I don't think they're going to be short of big caliber names who want to come. All the field will be announced throughout the summer. But I think they'll get big names, because I think the fact that it's going to become a piece of the European Tour, obviously lots of people will be playing for points as well. But I do think the fact that it's in Ireland and it hasn't been there, and we've seen what has happened with Irish golf because of Leona in particular over the last year, I definitely think that's going to strengthen the field, which will be a great thing.
And we're starting to see the culture change more and more within golf. How do you think this will help push things forward and maybe change people's opinions on the sport?
Yeah, I think this could be massive, because look, let's not forget that there's, still a long legacy issue with golf, where we've had, clubs where they won't even allow female members, and that kind of thing just stayed for too long. Whereas I think golf now is really in a place that has been promoting equality for a couple of years. I think you've seen that with the TV deals that are being done, that there's more and more exposure being given to women's golf. And I think it's because the product is so good as well. Anybody who watches it will see that it has been phenomenal over the last couple of years in particular. Just the ball striking has been really amazing. The growth of the game, the strength of the players, the way that they are able to just hit the ball with just such class is really a sight to behold. And I think anybody who does go out and watch them in the flesh will see it. Watching it on TV and watching it in real life are two very, very different scenarios. But having been up close and personal and seeing the way some of these women hit the ball is off the charts. It really is. So hopefully lots of people get out and watch it. But I do think something like this is going to take it to a whole new level again.
Yeah, no, I think the exposure that it'll give for fans across the board, whether it's young people or whether it's adults, will be huge. Tell us a bit about your love for golf.
Yeah, it's funny. I was looking for something to take up after stopping playing camogie, and I thought, ah, sure, I have the swing. I'll throw it up there and lash the ball down, and I'll be grand. It's actually finding the finesse, I think, really is the difficulty of my game. But I'm loving it. I have to say, I was looking for something that I could play until I'm old, really, you know. And the one thing that I love about golf is that there's no such thing as like a silly question. Like I often still play up, and I'm a member in Dunleary in Dublin, and I would be learning something new every week and consistently asking questions. And I love that. And I love that somebody who's like me, still, you know, a relative beginner, can play with somebody who's a scratch golfer, and you can actually play a competition and everybody can get something out of it. And there's not a lot of sports like that, because even if you go away on holidays and you're playing tennis against your partner, it's still not exactly equal, because you can't handicap it the way you can do with golf. So anybody can play against each other. And I have to say, I really love that element of it. I like the competitive streak of it. I like that there's something that I can aim at. You know, I've often laughed with some of my friends and said I have a target of being a single handicapper by the time I'm 50, which is thankfully still a good way away yet, but it's nice to have goals. I don't know how realistic it'll be, but I like to give myself a challenge, and it's definitely something that I'm going to work on.
And in terms of the opportunity for women, and you know, you're talking about walking away from camogie and starting a new sport, and it really is that lifelong sport. Like, you see people playing for years and years. You know, how welcoming is it for women? How easy is it to get involved in it? You know, what would your steps to trying it out? What would they be for if you're giving advice to people?
Yeah, do you know what? Here's the funny thing. I started in a society in Leopardstown on my own, and I was really afraid of, oh God, like, is it going to be really stuffy? Am I going to make any friends? Is it going to be really difficult? Will they laugh at me when I like fresh air the ball? You know, all of the fears that every single person who thinks about golf, that is exactly the way I felt. And it was the complete opposite, actually. Like probably the most surprising experience I've had in sport, because you and I know, if you go into a team sport environment, you're going to find somebody. It's going to be okay. It's going to be natural. You'll be grand. Individual sports are a bit different, because you don't really have that camaraderie of a team where it settles you in a little bit easier. So you can be really nervous about how it's going to go. But what I loved about golf was that, particularly if you are somebody who's thinking about starting off, I would highly recommend go to a society and start that way, because it's really gradual. There's lots of beginners. You're going to make loads of mistakes. You're going to learn lots of rules. And it's really, I found that really, really helpful, but really welcoming as well. And actually a really nice soft landing into a completely new sport, because I never played golf. Like, I was not a young person who went playing pitch and putt at the weekends. I never picked up a golf club until I was in my 20s, you know. So this has been a completely new revelation for me, that I found a sport in my 30s now that I really, really love. I didn't expect it at all. I'm still playing basketball, but like, those years are dwindling away before me, and getting to play a competitive sport at that level is not going to be there for much longer. So golf to me is going to be a really competitive thing that I want to continue for the rest of my life, and it's been great. But for people who may think, oh, I don't know if that would be for me, I would say give it a go, because it's so much more crack than I ever thought was possible.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's a lot of our audience will have maybe been involved in, you know, sports at different times, and maybe have walked away from them and might reconsider trying golf at this stage. And maybe you'll have turned a few heads to get them to go down and try it out, if you're saying that there is a bit of crack, and it is welcoming for people. But hopefully for you know, any young people, or maybe parents as well, that it is a sport that they don't necessarily write off for girls, and that they do get out and try it.
Yeah, totally. And you know what? That's actually something, Niamh, that I never considered when I was a kid, because like, you know, sometimes you're kind of dictated, particularly as a girl, by what your school does. So if you go to an all girls school and hockey's really big, or basketball's really big, which it was in my school, you kind of just gravitate towards that, because that's the sport that's there. Whereas like golf to me was like, I just thought it was a sport for posh people, like, really, you know, that was but I was totally wrong. Like, it just was you know, I suppose in your head, that's kind of what you're thinking. Whereas like, actually now when I look at the landscape, like, it's a skill I'd love for my kids to have. So I would say to parents, just try to be broad-minded, whether that's golf or any other sport as well, but just to kind of look outside the boundaries, because it's not often something that you'll find on your doorstep. Whereas I think now with golf, God, it's in every area of the country. So
Yeah.
if you, and by the way, also crucially, something that your family can do together, which again, you know, playing soccer with your kids is great for a while until somebody gets thick, but golf definitely allowed us all to play calmly.
You can keep the
and
temperature
efficiently.
down a little bit with
Correct.
golf, is it?
Correct. Yeah.
In terms of the opportunity for women in golf, like it is changing. Like there's potential to go pro. It's on television. The prize money is increasing. Obviously, we've seen Leona play the Solheim Cup. So the sky is the limit now at this stage.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. And like, look, I hope that what people see is an attempt to change the game here, because like, look, you can bring something to these shores and it doesn't work and people will still commend you for trying to make it happen. I think what Golf Ireland, what KPMG, what Dromoland Castle, like, I think trying to bring an event of real purpose to this country is what everybody's behind. This is not just Ursula will give it a go and see. Like, I think there's a real commitment there to want to actually make this something tangible that's going to be there ad infinitum, that this is not going to be something that disappears off the Ladies European Tour again in another 10 years. I think people just genuinely have a real commitment. And Golf Ireland have been really strong on this as well, that their Women in Golf program that they've been running for a number of years has become really successful. They've got loads of young players who are girls, and they are genuinely showing them pathways that they could never show them before. And I think that's really, really encouraging. So I would hope that the ceiling on this thing is, you know, so high that we haven't even thought about it yet. And look, I think we've seen this with some other sports. All it takes is one moment to change a landscape for a generation of kids. Like the Irish hockey team, their success in 2018 changed the game for a whole new group of young hockey players. You can see what that has meant, and it has transcended the amount of players who are now engaged in the game. I think when this Republic of Ireland women's team qualifies for a major tournament,
I like the
and
when.
and it's a matter of when, and it's very soon. Like it could be now, and if it's not this tournament, it's the next tournament. Like, I'll eat my words if that isn't the case, but I genuinely believe there's something magic happening with this team.
Yeah, they're very good.
And that's going to change a generation. And I think golf will be the same. You know, I think if kids can get down and watch their heroes in action, I really think this could be a massive moment for Irish golf.
Yeah, look, in terms of KPMG's commitment to paving the way and changing it, like obviously they've been a sponsor of Leona Maguire for quite some time. They recently announced Rachel Blackmore. They're involved with Dublin Ladies Gaelic football team. Like, they are demonstrating their commitment to women's sport. I think the last question I have for you, what are your final predictions for the Open, if you have some?
Oh God, it's too soon to know who's going to be in good form by then. I guess my predictions are that we are going to get a magnificent tournament. I hope that we are going to get the weather to match it, because if Ireland looks good on TV, like that's great for everybody involved. I think everyone will be coming, and that's great for everyone involved. I guess my biggest hope is that we have a strong global field, and I think they're doing their very best to attract as many of them as they can. And I think KPMG being involved definitely helps that, because they're obviously involved in big global major golf tournaments, and that definitely helps having their weighting in behind this. I think everybody wants this to be a success, and if they can get the male golfers to buy into this, to try to really help to push it as well, I think that'll be great. And then attracting all the biggest Irish stars, I think if we can get them all there and really wanting to win this thing, yeah, I think it could be really special. So I have no idea who's going to win it, but I'm definitely going to enjoy the journey.
We'll have to touch base with you closer to time. So
for sure. All I'm looking forward to, Niamh, is the Pro-Am. And between now and then, I'm going to practice so hard that I won't make a holy show of myself at it. And then we can all have a bit of crack. But yeah, look, I really think it's going to be magic.
Yeah, I know. I think it's certainly something that people are very excited for. And a lot of people are hearing of the Irish stars, but they haven't got to see them in person. So I think there'll be a lot of people going down to see them. I would say Leona Maguire's name is a household name, you know, across the country. So there'll be a lot of people coming out to see her, and then also, you know, for Olivia and for Stephanie as well. So, look, there's lots more than just the three of them. And as you said, there'll be a lot of international stars coming to, you know, coming to grace our island. So, yeah, it'll be very exciting. I suppose for people that are interested, tickets for the tournament are on sale and can be purchased at www.women'sIrishOpen.ie. So. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I know you are, as a big golf fan, but thanks so much for taking the time to chat to us on the Her Sport Show. And yeah, look, we look forward to catching up soon.
Thanks a million for having me. Cheers.
There'll be lots of excitement with the Euros, with the business end of the ladies football, with the camogie, and lots more sport coming up in Ireland and internationally. Here's what's happening. After today's game in the Euros, we'll see Norway facing Northern Ireland at 8 p.m. On Friday, 8th of July, Spain versus Finland at 5 and Germany versus Denmark at 8. On Saturday, 9th of July, Portugal versus Switzerland at 5 p.m, Netherlands versus Sweden at 8 p.m. On Sunday, 10th of July, Belgium versus Iceland at 5 p.m. and France versus Italy at 8 p.m. The TG Ceathair All-Ireland Championship quarter-finals will see Dublin play Donegal, Cork play Mayo, Armagh play Kerry and Meath take on Galway. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Her Sport Show. You can catch up on this episode and every episode across our YouTube channel, all podcast platforms and our social media channels. Be sure to tune in again next week.
The Her Sport Show, live every Wednesday on YouTube and every podcast app.